Okay, brilliant. So hello, I'm Lucy Robertson. I'm doing a PhD in interactive textiles here in Dundee at Duncan of Jordanstone. And I'm looking at how interactive textiles can impact on well-being within dementia-friendly communities. My background is in textile design as well, so I did an undergraduate at Duncan of Jordanstone in textile design. And today, oh dear, I'm going to talk about my research. I'm going to cover what interactive textiles are, what I mean by well-being, and a couple of projects I've done throughout my PhD. But first of all, I want to start with this piece, which is my first ever interactive textile, which I made as an undergraduate in my final year. And it is a dress and a cushion that have woven fibre optics underneath, a laser cut design on top. And the woven fibre optics are attached to an Arduino board, which is a little computer board. And they allow the user of the cushion or the wearer of the dress to change the colour of each object, so they can control the red, green and blue output of the fibre optics. And this was all about connecting. So I made it for my grandmother, so my granny had the cushion, I had the dress, and wherever we were in the world, we could connect through colour and our love of textiles. So that was my first ever piece and kind of why I'm here today. But what are interactive textiles? So within my research, I describe them as textiles that light up, change colour, or make sound in response to touch. And I have a few examples with me today that we can play with afterwards. And there'll also be examples at my workshop tomorrow, which is in the room next door, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So the other thing is well-being. What do I mean by well-being? Throughout my research, I referred to the 5 ways of well-being, which were developed by the New Economics Foundation in 2008. I'm just going to breathe for a second. A project from 2006 to 2008 brought together knowledge of experts from all over the world in psychology, psychiatry, neuroscience, education, and economics. And they explored well-being, and they found that what we do, where we are, and who we are can affect our happiness. So the New Economics Foundation kind of brought all of this knowledge together and gathered all the kind of findings and came up with these 5 ways. So they are connect, be active, keep learning, give, and take notice. And the one on the end is a new way that Live Well Kent came up with last year, and it is called Care, and it's really all about caring for the planet and responding to the current environmental crisis that we are having. So my research brings together craft, making, technology, and textiles to enable social connections, celebrate creativity, and foster new relationships and experiences for those living with dementia and their communities. I've developed strong links with 2 dementia-friendly communities, one in East Lothian, which is where I'm from, just down from Edinburgh, and one right at the top of Scotland in the Outer Hebrides in the islands there. And through working with these communities, I have organised with them art exhibitions, craft bombs, and workshops. And really it's all about promoting awareness of the communities themselves and the continuing social identity of those living with dementia. So essentially my research is looking at how we can connect communities through making and textiles by listening to needs, cultures, stories, and experiences. So throughout my PhD, I've done a range of studies, and I wanted to talk about one of my first ones, which is sonic flock. The sonic flock involved lots of different stages and layers. The first one was a call out to makers. So I asked makers from throughout the UK to sew or knit birds. These were going to be displayed in an exhibition and then later gifted to those living in care homes throughout the Outer Hebrides. Materials and patterns were shared across the UK as well, including Harris tweed, which is from the Outer Hebrides. And over 80 birds flew back to Anlanter, which is the gallery I worked in at the time in Stornoway. And they were hung in the gallery space there as part of a Cainia exhibition, or memory in Gaelic. The public were invited to interact with the birds in the exhibition, and as the title might suggest, some of them made sound. So this little bunch made sound, and then again I've got a sample of one of the individual ones that makes sound. Not everyone wanted to part with their creations, but they were really happy to be part of something bigger. And crowdsourcing the birds in this way throughout the UK allowed myself to connect with makers, but also wider dementia-friendly communities within Britain. So how does this relate back to the 5 ways of well-being? So it covers give. People gave their time and their creations to the project. It's about taking notice. We raised awareness of the dementia-friendly community. It's about learning. So many people learnt or revisited skills that they hadn't used for a while, including knitting and sewing. And it's about connection. Many families actually made birds together. Might be a couple from a family that made birds together here. And the wider dementia-friendly community connected through the making and exhibiting of these birds. So the next stage after the making and the exhibiting was the gifting. So a range of birds were gifted to 7 different care homes throughout the Outer Hebrides. And they acted as social objects, allowing conversations about birds, textiles, and making to be had. Interactions such as singing, laughing, smiling, and hugging were all observed during the tour, the gifting tour that I did throughout the islands. And these were showing signs of joy and happiness in the moment. And the sonic element, alongside the familiar textiles of Harris tweed, brought the outside of the Outer Hebrides into the care homes themselves. This study then resulted in another one called Creative Clans, and this was all about exploring textile making to connect 2 dementia-friendly communities. So the 2 that I talked about, East Lothian and the Outer Hebrides. So through the use of craft, textiles, and technology, this study aimed to build, grow, and strengthen links and friendships between these 2 places while improving individual well-being. Working with different craft materials, e-textile tools, and digital tools, we established ways to nurture peer-to-peer connections within and between these 2 places. And this was just one of the workshops that I ran. It was using smart pigments, which change colour with heat. Again, I've got samples with me. And we used these little wooden print blocks to kind of pop up in different places, care homes, community centres. And the print blocks were actually designed and made with the groups as well, so the kind of patterns and things were developed with them. And they created these thermochromic tote bags. During the interactive workshops, we played with many things, including conductive pom-poms, heat and light reactive material, and woven conductive flowers, which are actually made from beach waste collected in both locations. The groups decided to use the pom-poms and the flowers to connect with the communities and raise awareness of the dementia-friendly community across both locations. So we did this through craft bombing, which is basically making lots of stuff and putting it around different places. So these were the flowers that we wove. And we did this in Cockenzie House and Gardens in East Lothian and 3 different locations in the Outer Hebrides, again involving the full dementia-friendly community, those living with dementia and their families. Again, how does this connect back to the 5 ways, or the 6 ways? So that 6th way was all about trying to use materials within my practice and within the research that we're not adding to the waste that we already have. So we collected beach waste from the Outer Hebrides and the beaches in East Lothian, and that's what we used to work with. It was about connecting, so 2 communities connected through making, materials, stories, and experiences. It was about giving. They shared their skills, not only with me, but with each other, their materials, their traditions. They kept learning, so they learned about new materials through the workshops that I ran, and made textiles that not only lit up, but made sound, changed colour, and conducted electricity. We encouraged others to take notice of the dementia-friendly community and get involved, and they facilitated and contributed to craft bomb activities, and some people even made different tools to help me make pom-poms or help us make flowers, so it was really cool, everyone getting involved. And just as a side note, tomorrow I'll be running a little workshop to look at our own well-being alongside creating a sonic garden. So we're going to weave these little flowers, which are going to have a conductive element in them, and we're going to attach them to a fish box, actually, which is rigged with sound, basically. So we're going to create our own sonic garden just next door in the V&A. And that's me.